So welcome back to the Neon Juno booth here at the CogX Festival. CogX 21 is all about transformation and AI and what can we learn to make the next 10 years better. And we here on the stand have been looking at all aspects of exponential leadership, both in terms of the individual leader, their teams and their business. And I'm really excited for the conversation that we've got that's just about to start. I'm going to welcome Dave Ford from Big Cat Capital to the conversation, to the stage, and we're going to be covering how you can inspire your team, but more importantly, how you can squeeze extra productivity, extra support from your team. Originally, we were playing with the title of delegation, but it goes way beyond delegation. In order to help your business to grow at a rapid pace, you do need to be able to spread the load. And as we're going to cover over the next 20 minutes or so, if you're going to spread the load, if you're going to share the work, you need to share the love and the rewards. So Dave, welcome. Why don't you just give us a little bit of a flavour of who you are, and then we'll dive into the topic.
Hi Claire, thank you for inviting me today. Yeah, so who am I? I've got a background in aviation. I started as an apprentice engineer. I learned my engineering trade, obviously, and enjoyed that, but soon digressed to what I felt, well, what I was drawn towards really was management through to leadership, and and I've got some really good stories about across that journey. What do I do now with Big Cat Capital? We primarily are supporting business leaders on their strategic journey, if you like. So that might be helping them develop strategy, that might be helping them execute strategy, that might be just stepping back and having a deep think about and some healthy conversation around what their challenges are, what their horizon looks like. So yeah, less defined than one area, but generally it's around supporting leaders and so on,
and helping those businesses to thrive and keep growing, I guess.
Absolutely. Each business will have its own. There might be challenges, there might be objectives, they could be huge ambitions, but they all require a healthy plan and an understood plan that fits their environment, and not just the environment today, but what their future environment will look like.
So let's dive into that strategy aspect with the strategy and the leadership combined. How important is that overarching plan, and for everyone in the team to understand where they're going? Is it a nice to have? I mean, I see many businesses write a great strategy and then shove it on the shelf.
yeah, sadly that can happen, and there's lots of ways of creating a very intricate strategy, a very well understood strategy. It will come in lots of forms, but for me, the understanding is the primary function of it. You as a business, whether it's a management team or a small team, want to understand exactly what's being asked of you, what the challenges are, how you're going to overcome them challenges, what your role is within them, that whole challenge. So having a mission or a purpose, whether it be at team level, if it's a hierarchical business, it could be at team level, it could be at a management level, it could be at a business unit level, it could be at an international level, regional. There's all sorts of ways of carving it up, but buying into it at every level is fundamental in its success. And that sounds obvious when you say it, but in practice, it's not always the case. It's presented to a group of workers, employees, team, call it what you like. I have a real preference for involving them in the development of, because that's where you can create a connection, and that connection is your buy-in, and that's, if you can have a team that is thinking like you, if you're a business owner, for example, in the SME sector, you might be a business owner, and if you can get your team thinking like you, that helps you step away from the day-to-day, that helps you look at the bigger picture, it helps you engage with customers, it helps your staff engage with customers, because they all understand exactly what the company purpose is, what we're trying to give, what's the value add to the customer.
And do you see that a lot with founders? I mean, when I work with some tech founders, they have got a very clear idea in their head and a kind of relentless energy towards delivering that vision, but sometimes being able to describe it, or actually putting enough energy into describing it, it's just that, I guess, because it's for them, it's their core driver, it's the most bleedingly obvious thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
Do you see enough engagement from founders with the rest of their teams?
It varies. I mean, tech founders, if you were going to broad brush a tech founder in the sort of a generalizing sort of way, these are people that have seen something that nobody else has seen, possibly on the planet. And they see an opportunity and an application of technology, or sometimes they just see the result and they don't know how to create the technology. That's all part of the journey. So these are people that are very able to step away and look at a big picture and to challenge and to question. Not everybody's like that. So their team might be made up of people that aren't entrepreneurial, that are technical specialists in a certain field or a certain area. And all these components are really important. But as a leader, you need to adapt, I think, and understand, and that's what I think is strong in the message I'm trying to give. Understand that everybody's different. Each component is different. And if you can involve them or bring them along that journey, when you come to sharing the workload or to expecting, whatever your expectations are of your team, that you can't squeeze into a job description or you can't squeeze into a job title. You want them to organically evolve with business. And that way, there should be less fault. There should be less, the business will feel more planned, less chaotic. So yeah, a business leader absolutely has to reflect on what their strengths are, but what his team's strengths are, and help fill each other's gaps.
Yeah, and I guess to expand on what you're saying there, sometimes having been a team leader, senior leader as well at times, it can be very, very easy to manage your team tightly. It's like, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's exactly what you do. But the burden that you hold on to as a leader in doing that, when they come back and say, done that, next bit. And so I guess what you're saying is, almost have, rather than have rules, have parameters, have guidelines, not hard, fast steps necessarily.
Freedom, freedom to explore the business, the landscape that they're working in, the relationships with customers, the relationships with suppliers that often get forgotten in these types of situations. That all the components that feed your successful business. You need to create a team like this. You need to know what environment you're trying to create, and you recruit to it as well. Might not be the most experienced person. It might not be the competitor with the black book to die for. It might be the apprentice. It could be the person which comes in with the right mindset and fits your environment and helps you, adds to your environment, helps you grow it and turn it into that vision. And if you haven't got that vision, if you haven't spent time shaping what you want your business or your customer team to look like, or your design team, to interact with each other. If you don't spend time understanding that yourself, it's very difficult, almost impossible for the team to bridge that gap.
I think that's fair as well. And I guess kind of one of the roles that we play in a consulting or coaching environment is teasing out that vision, and particularly in a group setting, bringing through the diverse voices that you're able to test and flesh out the vision and see whether it's possible, see how it can be improved on even. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's not impossible for one person to have the vision for a business and drag everyone with it. We've seen it in very successful businesses. But from my experience, from the clients I've worked with, those that take time to understand the people around them, the environment they're in, and shape cut their cloth accordingly, they're far, generally they're far more successful. Well, certainly as a group, they're far more successful in that sense. And that's not just commercial success. That can be about whatever it is they're trying to achieve. We hear a lot about the working environment nowadays, and the science behind the working environment is an understanding of it is evolving immensely. People on this whole event are exploring that, and as it evolves, and as the world's understanding of it evolves, then any business needs to evolve with it. It's crucial.
And it's almost as if that model of inspiring people and engaging them, does that mean that we should no longer put leaders on pedestals, or kind of, because for many years we've seen the hero leader who's going to lead and direct people and follow me, but I think what you're suggesting is a much more collaborative space, perhaps where more people are involved.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I think if I was, it's hard without talking to a specific example. I've worked in hierarchical businesses, and I've seen the benefits and the constraints of that. I've worked with businesses that are more fluid, and forward thinking, and for me, that's what the future looks like. We've all gone through a trauma together globally. Some parts of the world are suffering in ways that we wouldn't imagine, but ultimately, in the environment here in the UK, for example, or Europe, that we need to learn from. There's adjustments to be made now. That we're going to evolve. The workplace will evolve. The expectations of staff will evolve. It might be less about salary. It might be more about flexibility and the ability to have an influence and affect change. The whole. Well, Karen.
Oh no, but to be controversial, I mean, I know that at times in my own leadership journey, when I've looked to my team, the pressure is on for results. Irrespective of us all going together, you've got to meet deadlines, you've got to meet extra targets, there's scarcity of resources, and you feel like you need to push your team, and particularly, and we've all had teams where there's 1 or 2 star players, and that actually it'd just be a lot easier to get them to carry the load because it's just too much hard work else.
I think we've probably all fallen foul of the willing horse syndrome, if you like, and I know I have, and I was chatting about this with Abby, who I'm talking to tomorrow, and she mentioned the phrase social loafer, which I really liked. It's those people that when somebody else steps forward, they take a little step back, and they're happier to let someone else take on extra load. And that's where we go back to that mission and purpose. If you can create a team of people that feed each other and inspire each other, to engage with that mission or that purpose or that particular business KPI or whatever it is, that's there to be achieved. That's a far more effective way of achieving those goals.
So practically, what would you advise leaders to do in terms of shaping that team environment? You said describe, be really clear about the vision, be engaging in the way that you tell the story behind the business purpose. Are there any other ways that you'd encourage leaders to act?
It's be intentional with what you're doing. So if you've got be intentional in terms of creating that vision, that plan, and good planning will create less chaos, less need for people to, in an emergent situation, grab extra work or offload work or things like that, because you are in control. But then we're never going to get away from an environment where there's no surprises and there's no even with technology and process, things go wrong. So I would say, in terms of leadership behaviours, there is a place for leading from the front. There is a place for setting the examples you want, but that needs to be across the board. There needs to be a broad spectrum to that for me. So for me, it's about the behaviours that consider people's outside of work life. It's the behaviours that consider people's personal stresses or personal challenges with what's going on. And if you're going to lead from the front and you're going to drive targets, equally of equal importance are the what we used to call softer management skills, but they're actually far more relevant. And if you want to measure them. If you want to bring them to the fore for your team to understand, bring them to the fore. Show them that you're engaged in them as much as they are in you and your business.
And I'm glad that you've led to that in terms of softer skills, because when you look at, say, reports from the CBI, for example, about where the skills shortages of the future are, they call out the technical skills like programming, for example. They call those out as being absent from the workplace, or the workplace of the future. Creativity is another area that we need to invest heavily in skills development, but leadership as well. And enabling, encouraging people across all organisations and in schools and colleges to understand what leadership is and to find their own style of leadership. I guess in the work that you do, you work closely with individual leaders and would coach and mentor them through that, perhaps building into the structure as well. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think there isn't, bring your personality to it would be a takeaway for me. Understand, we've talked about understanding, we've talked about planning, we've talked about creating the environment and investing in your team, but your personality will leave a print on your business if you're the business owner or the business leader, and equally your team players should feel that they can do the same and really put their personality and their soul into what they're doing. We all work because we need to earn money, and we all need to put, we can go into Maslow's hierarchy of needs and so on, but the most satisfying roles I've had are the ones that I wasn't looking at my bank balance, I wasn't looking at any, I was looking at what we were achieving and looking around me at the people I was achieving it with. And I've got some really fond memories, we're going to run out of time today, but some really fond memories of things that might not be as obvious to some people because they're not the big headline achievements, but they're the ones that had left a personal print on me. And it's those examples I talk about with clients and so on.
There's a saying that I like is, when you're on your deathbed, who's going to give us stuff that you reach an extra 5% growth in your team targets? really. That's not going to come through. And even in 5 years' time, it will come through on your CV, but won't necessarily be imprinted on you as a person. So as we come to the end of our time today, are there any final thoughts that you have that around how leaders can, you know, create that environment, or any final words of advice to leaders?
I think keep your horizons broad, and keep looking ahead. You know, much like if someone's at this conference, they are looking ahead at what the future brings. And you know, we've all just been disrupted. We will all settle back into routine, and some, that's for some people that feels like a treadmill. For some people that feels really exciting and a broad open space. So I think keep your eyes up. Keep looking out and around. You know, whether it's at your competitors, or it's at your clients, or it's at technology, whatever that may be.
Thank you, Dave. So for anybody in the audience who wants to explore more around Dave and his thinking and his business, we're going to have that information within the show notes here. And I want to wrap up by saying that actually some of the threads that you've pulled through here pull through to so many other talks. So the talk immediately before was around network-based thinking and how you can create a diverse team that helps to both expand opportunities, but you know, reinforce them at the same time. You're checking out how strong your ideas are. We talked yesterday about storytelling and how important that is in order to, you know, help your business to shine and help you to make sense of where you're going. And so it feels like this sense of exponential leadership has many facets, but a lot of commonality between, you know, between them.
And Abby and I are talking tomorrow, 2:10, I think, and she talks a lot about the balance of well-being and commercial success, and you know, really, it's really interesting stuff.
Fabulous. Well, on that note, we will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. And the next item on the agenda is around balanced chakras. So a completely different dynamic on how you as an individual leader can be as potent and powerful as you can in the workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.